Moriden Athluan.
Working from within, Moriden Stormcrown created distrust, hatred, and discord within the ranks of the mighty vampire army raised by the ancient bloodline of Clan Volkar.
Cursing the name of he who defeated them, these vampire hordes were driven back to the plains of oblivion.
And so we find ourselves thrown together once again, my friend. Almost as if one of us were looking for the other. But why would either of us do that?
To self-improvement and the training of long-ignored talents and abilities.
Even as he trained at the illustrious and fabled Mages' College of Winterhold, Moriden still continued to search for a solution to the continuing dragon attacks.
Spending his time, now, searching for answers among the countless tomes of the Arcane Library, it would not be long before he was again called on to save all the Skyrim.
Ah, is that where we left off? Once again, the bards only tell you what they believe to be truth. They weren't there. They don't understand. You, though. You, of all people, need to understand. So let me tell you what the bards will not, what they cannot. Because the truth is not what the bards would have you believe. "30 Evening Star, 4th Era 201. I had hoped to not worry about any of the more deadly creatures in Skyrim, but that hope seems to be dashed at this point. Trolls, despite their nature and size, are not hard to deal with. Dragons won't fit in a cave. Ice wraiths, however, hard to hit, hard to kill, constantly moving, and constantly freezing. I believe I've mentioned how I hate the cold before. My time at the college was largely a waste where learning magic was concerned, but I did learn a trick or two and figured this was a good time as any to make use of it. While my skills in destruction are still where most of my knowledge lies, I came to be interested in illusion as well. The promise of being able to fool one's enemies through various means appeals to me for some reason. And early on, I learned a trick of my own. I figured out how to, I call it stealth casting. Usually, casting a spell creates a good deal of noise, but I figure, what if you create an illusion of quiet on yourself and then cast your spells? Would this not create silent casting, preventing an enemy from knowing where the spell was coming from? Minus seeing where the fireball was flying from, of course, but it would still be an advantage. And it worked. The first time I've really tried it in the field went very well. The wraiths were unable to find me as I shot fire into them and melted them to a pile of slushy goo. Sometimes it pays to experiment. This section of unexplored cave did not go far. It was again blocked by fallen debris, and this time I have to think that simple old age of the original pass is the critical factor in the collapse. This place is old, even by Skyrim standards. Similar to the last section of pass, there appeared to be two different ways to get to this point, however, and though I had cleared the one, the other still likely had creatures. From the dead trolls here, I suspect more of those, as ice wraiths have never had problems dealing with the large brutes. The immediate goal, then, is to return to Marasi and get his crews to work, clearing what I hope will be the last barrier. And while they do that, I have one last thing to finish in the Reach. 3 hours, Nir, to get clear of the pass again. Then it was on to Arvak and away towards the Reach. My destination is a cave near where the Karth River divides and comes together again. And I can only think of one place that fits this description. Once I arrived near the Karth Spire, I began my search for this hidden cave on the south side of the river, one of the few places I've paid little attention to. It did take some time, but I found its entrance hidden behind a waterfall, just over a bridge I had crossed many times. Funny how a place so important can be within reach so many times, and yet never be noticed. Then again, that seems to be the story of Skyrim. The first chamber was more or less empty, as I had expected. Honestly, I'd thought that the way to recombine the 3 parts of the Amulet of Galdur would be out in the open, easy to access. Should have known better, given the effort that the ancients put into sealing away the Galdur brothers. This place is equally sealed, in a way. It had a puzzle gate, which in hindsight I should have expected. I did not, however, expect that the key would be an easy reach, with only a sternly written warning accompanying it to ask, ever so kindly, that this place never be opened up. I'm not sure what killed the adventurer next to it, and really, I don't much care. I have defeated and ransacked 3 tombs to get this far, and a letter from someone long dead and forgotten, which is what they desired, ironically enough, is not going to stop me from claiming my prize now. Magic may not be my chosen domain, but power will always be power. And the power shall be mine. These ancients were not messing around. The gate opened, as easy as you might like, but it didn't just open one door. It opened a series of 3 of them, all leading to a 4th at the far end of the passage, and allowed no less than 10 Draugr to come for me. I think I know what killed the adventurer outside now. Maybe I should have cared ever so slightly more. The fight was a brief one, however. An unrelenting false shout to shove them all over the place took care of full half of the host, and my arrows were able to finish off the rest as they rose from where they had been thrown so violently. I guess the ancients who designed this never anticipated a Dragonborn trying to get through their defenses, which works out for me just fine. The door at the far end, however, did not work with the emerald key that I had picked up here. On a hunch, and because I had it with me still, I tried the ivory one from one of the original tombs, and the door fell away before me. There are rooms, I have discovered, that tell you instantly that you are about to have some major complication in your exploration. This one triggered all of my senses, all of them giving me that exact same message, that death was awaiting me if I continued on. I ignored this voice. I've heard it many times before, and it has served its purpose, to warn me of danger. So warned I cautiously approached the table at the far end, and, seeing 3 small display pedestals, I placed the 3 fragments of the amulet upon them. I did not expect the room to shake. I did not expect to see the 3 sons of Galdur show up once again. I did, however, figure out that if they were here, we were likely about to start fighting once again. I turned, just in time to place a pair of arrows into the spectre of Mikul Galdason, destroying him almost instantly. The fight with Sigdis went, well, less smoothly than the first. There were now 4 images of him, and all appeared spectral, with no real way to tell them apart. Well, not at first. After the first round of dodging incoming spectral arrows, I noticed that only one of them was actually moving around. Taking that to be the real one, I put an arrow into it, and another, until Sigdis was once again defeated, which left only the last son. The last son appeared, but I had let fly my last dragonbone arrow almost as soon as he appeared. Though I had others, they were all weaker, and I hoped that a single one would be enough. It was. The arrow slammed into the spectral apparition and tore it to pieces. The sons appeared once more at the table, but then were wiped away as another power appeared. What I imagine was their father. For a moment it stood there looking at me as if judging, then began casting. A bright light, and where there had been 3 fragments, there was now a singular whole. It floated above the table, waiting for my hand to take it. And when I did, when I delved its enchantments, I was shocked. No wonder this amulet was so sought after. It held the very keys of life within it, amplifying all that I was, and preserving it as well. Health, stamina, my ability to draw upon magic, all of it was amplified, as well as my ability to heal, to recover. All of that. And there was still something else. I couldn't quite put a name to it, but it felt as if with this amulet, I would never need fear death again. The same kind of power I once had as a vampire, but without the need to drain others of their life. I stared at it in shock for some moments, and then I felt a dark grin take shape on my lips. 31 Evening Star, 4th Era, 201. I slept at the safe house last night, arriving late in the evening. Today I anticipate little of note. The sorting of items, the gathering of replacement arrows, and similar. I plan to return to Dragon's Reach and release Odaving, then have him take me to Skeldafen, where I will chase down, hunt, and kill Alduin. I would be stupid to let him return to full strength. And now that all but one of its dragon priests are dead, and that lone remaining one shall join the rest when I get to Skeldafen, I am in a position, I think, to challenge and destroy the beast. Yes, this will save the world, but I doubt most here in Skyrim will even notice the difference. Dragons are back. There is no removing them entirely. Removing that one dragon, however, will make it at least possible for life to continue on. As for me, well, I haven't thought that far forward just yet. I still feel a hole in my life, if you will. It has been there ever since the death of Ulfric Stormcloak, and nothing I've tried has managed to fill it for long. I will have to look for another path, but first, there is Alduin. 1 Morning Star, 4th Era, 202. Some people set great store by the beginnings of a new year, that events on this day can portend the coming year. Perhaps there might be some truth to it. People who want to see something at events that are completely unrelated will always find what they are looking for. If that is true, then perhaps today will portend the beginning of a new age. I rode from Solitude early, arriving at Whiterun not long after dawn. I saw the local farmers and ranchers looking at me as I rode up. I dare say I saw hope in some of their eyes. Then again, given that they are the ranchers of the area that have been responsible for keeping Odoving fed for over the last week and a half or so, I suppose they would be hoping that I would relieve them of that burden. That, at least, I would be doing. The streets of the city seemed calm. The market stalls were in full swing already, and despite what I knew had to be a truly onerous burden on Nazim's livestock, he was still amongst the stalls trying to make everyone else feel less, with his annoying and persistent sarcasm. As I passed through the Gilded Green Square, I took a quick look around. Heimsko's place was still a wreck. The new tree had blossomed and was in full growth despite the winter season, perhaps proof that Kinnereth was looking after it, perhaps just proof that the tree was a hardy little thing. And on the east side, the building that houses the companions, Jorvaska. I paused as I looked at them. Not a fighters' guild, as I hear tale of them in other provinces, but a collection of men and women who were good with weapons and fighting and could, for the right price, be brought in to deal with conflict or other problems. In a lot of ways not overly different from what I do now. Perhaps when this is over, that is where I will try. My martial skills cannot at this point be denied, nor am I a no-name sellsword just in from Valenwood or elsewhere. I think I might fit in such a group. But that will wait until later. I have a date with the dragon. It was a largely irritated dragon that greeted me as I returned to Dragon's Reach, and really, I can't blame him. A being such as it is, one used to cruising the skies of the world with nothing to hold it back, being confined to a singular room, to not feel the breeze of the air as it slices through it. Oh, a torture to it, I'm sure. Even though I might understand it, I was also very clear when we spoke. I release it, and it takes me to Skeldafen. It tries to run, I will hunt it down and destroy it, then call on Durnavir to take me up instead. Odoving's eyes widened somewhat when I mentioned the name of the old dove. Apparently, its name still holds weight. It agreed, once again, to my terms. Everyone was ushered out of the trap, and I released Snowwing Hunter. It waited for me to mount as it agreed, and with a surge of speed we took to the air. It had told me that once I had seen the world from the air, I would only grow more jealous of the dove. He was wrong. He didn't know how much I hated heights, and I had my eyes closed for almost the entire flight. Only when I felt the impact of its feet with the ground again did I dare to even try to let go of the great beast's neck. Indeed, I'd been holding on so tightly that it hurt to let go. The muscles had all but frozen in place during the flight. A few last words, that it would await my return, or Alduin's, and Odoving was gone, and I was alone on the mountainside fortress of Skeldafen. The last great holdout of the dragon cult, home of the last priest, Nakrin, and the one place I can follow Alduin into Sovngarde without having died first myself. It's going to be an eventful day. I had hoped to make an initially clean entry, with none here the wiser that I was present. That hope was short-lived. One of the dragons nearby must have seen Odaving leaving only moments after arriving, and dropped in to take a quick look. Which means it caught me by surprise. The battle was short, as I believe the dove I killed was a younger one with little experience, but the fact that the fight took place at all means that those in the fortress likely know I am here now. Especially now that a giant fireball of the dove's body can be seen from the walls. This just got far harder than it needed to be. Not much longer, and I realized I never had much of a chance of a full stealth entrance. Alduin had apparently left orders for others of the Dove to watch over this place, as a second one dropped down off of one of the battlements to challenge me as well. It went about as well for it as the first one, but the fact that there were two, perhaps more, of the Dove waiting and watching for me made me smile darkly. Alduin would never have done that if it weren't afraid of me. It was slow going, trying to climb the steps of Skuldafen. Draugr and skeletons were everywhere, and it was only now that I began to understand where they had all come from, why every single tomb from the era of the Dragon Wars seemed to spew these creatures forth like a plague. Because in a way, that was exactly what they were. The dragon cult, knowing it was defeated, had gone to all of these sites and worked their magic to cause them to rise. Bleak Falls Barrow. Defend the Dragonstone, a map of where every dragon the cult had buried was located. The other tombs. Defend the word walls, so that no more masters of the voice could rise to challenge Alduin when it returned, even Jurgen Windcollar's tomb, to desecrate the man who had been behind those who could cause the downfall of the dragons and the cult. Even as I had that epiphany, I heard a loud boom and looked up toward the fortress proper and saw a giant beam of light shooting into the sky. The portal. I hadn't been able to see it from where I was dropped off, but the portal was open, and it was waiting for me. I could feel the day wearing on, and for some reason that made me feel like I was racing time, that I needed to get to the portal before midnight. Nothing anywhere was telling me that such was the case, but still the feeling remained. I tore through rooms, moving faster than was prudent and taking shots at wandering Draugr that I normally would have waited on. Somehow, it all worked. And none of them, it felt like, could touch me as I dashed from one room to the next. The Draugr I downed at the feet of yet another puzzle gate caused me a moment's anxiety, for I hadn't seen a claw key anywhere to this point in Skeldafen. But a quick search found one of diamond in its side pouch. The door opened before me, and I continued my mad race to the portal, where I was sure Nakrim was waiting for me. Just beyond the door, the almost expected word wall. I'm not sure what word I was expecting, perhaps part of fire or frost breath, of which I know only a single word, yet all dragons seem to know and use. But no, it was something far, far better. I learned the final word of Storm Call, lightning, making what has become, recently, my favorite shout, even more powerful. I'm not sure how much use it will be in Sovngarde, but at least here on Nirn, it will make me all but untouchable. Fitting. Really? I am Stormcrown, Stormkiller. It seems only right that I be able to call down the lightning for which I bear two names. Before long, I also shall be Moriden Stormcaller, I think. Back into the daylight, I quickly cleared the terrace of the few enemies that I hadn't been able to down from the lower regions. There weren't many left. And this close, 2 stairwells away, I could hear the roar of the open portal. I calmed my nerves, swapped to my dragonbone arrows, and ascended the stairway. Before me was the best possible situation I could have entered. I could see the dragon priest. It had its back turned to me, and only 2 other defenders were on the pinnacle of the fortress. I drew my bow, calming myself to keep my hands from shaking at this unexpected bounty, and on the sigh of a breath, the arrow flew from my bowstring, hissing through the air, and the priest fell to ashes. Victory. A surge of elation. The portal closed. I panicked for a brief moment as I downed the remaining 2 defenders, and though on the exterior I might have appeared calm inside, I was scrambling. The portal was closed. How do I open it? Can I open it again? A search of the priest didn't seem to give me anything to work with, just the thing's staff, mask, and armoring. And then I paused. When I'd been lining up my shot, had the staff been in its hands? My eyes widened, and I searched the stone for what I hoped would be the solution, and I found it, in a small hole in the stone. Desperate now, I took the staff from the ashes and slammed its end into the hole. A massive grinding noise, and the portal reopened, air moving at tempest speeds as it all but sucked me into its maw. My expression now one of predatory joy, I jumped towards the portal, towards Alduin. A blinding light, and I lost consciousness. I don't know how long I was out. I don't honestly know if I was out at all, really. I was supposed to be making the transition from the world of the living to the afterlife of the Nords, and I think I remember hearing that you're supposed to see a bright light just before you die. Not that I was dead. At least, I didn't believe I was. Hunger and thirst suddenly didn't seem important to me, and though I knew it was late in the day when I had entered the portal, I wasn't feeling much in the way of fatigue either. And the place I opened my eyes in? Clearly not the world I was used to. I stood atop a hill, only one path open before me. Maybe this place is built on metaphors of a kind. But if not, it was still no less true. I had only one path. Forward. Somewhere out there was the World Eater. It was time to end this game. I descended from the mountain and soon lost all visibility. A mist lay along the valley floor, thick and dark in a way I've never seen any mere fog. In many ways it reminded me of the deadly fog that lay on the sides of the throat of the world, disorienting and draining one of life, though the latter seemed not to be a part of this. Suddenly, through the mist, I saw a glow getting more bright, and then it turned from glow to human form. Though that form wore the armor of the Stormcloak Rebellion, I held my shot. Here, all were dead already, and how they died was more important than what they had believed. Alduin, he told me, is here indeed, hunting those who lose the path from where I entered to Shaw's Hall. I tried to keep him with me, but no sooner had its warning been given than he raced off into the fog, where I fear he shall be prey to Alduin's hunger. Taking my cue from those mountainside mists, I used the Clear Skies shout to try and find the path forward, and while it worked somewhat, the rain that had begun falling refused to be dispelled. In the far distance, Heralded by its scream of anger and hunger, I caught just the barest view of Alduin as it took to the skies. Then, at the foot of the hill, and before the steps leading to Shaw's Hall, I ran into the last person I ever wanted to see again. The man who had set me on this path. The man who, if I could have found a way, I would have killed 100 times over in vengeance. Ulfric Stormcloak was standing at the foot of those steps. But I don't think he knew who I was, or what was happening to him. He lamented the shared fate of Imperial and Stormcloak alike here in Sovngarde, to be prey to the nightmare form of Alduin as it swooped from the skies. Ulfric barely even registered that I existed, muttering more to himself, it seemed, than to me. For a moment, the barest moment, I pitied him. Still I harbor my hatred for him. Still I would almost rather destroy my own eyes than look upon his face. But things have happened since the day I killed him in the Palace of the Kings. And this was not the Ulfric whose throat I had slit and whose life I had joyfully watched bleed out onto the flagstones. I continued on the path to Shaw's Hall, and left the ghost of Ulfric Stormcloak behind. At the far end of the valley, drenched in the rain that had been falling almost since I entered this land of the dead, I found another who glowed as both the shades of Ulfric and the unnamed Stormcloak soldier had. This one guarded the way forward and named himself as Sun, the shield thane to Shaw, tasked with letting none pass him who did not pass the warrior's test. My claim to the dragon blood was not challenged, but neither did it grant me access. Battle was needed. So battle I gave him. Briefly. I called the lightning from the sky to strike Sun, and in short order, with a laugh, he granted me passage and bade me enter Shaw's Hall. Entering Shaw's Hall, I was greeted by no less than Ysgramor himself, the man who, in many ways, I was the direct heir to, a Dragonborn himself. I was given no chance to speak with him, though. He had his message to deliver, and then he would say no more. By Shaw's command, all here had kept their blades sheathed, rather than venture out against Alduin. 3, however, were present, who had claimed the right to challenge Alduin at my side. As he said the names, I knew them, and I knew why they were the ones who had claimed the positions. Gormlaith, the woman I had seen Alduin destroy with a single snap of his jaws on the day that Alduin had been banished. Hakon, her brother, who had fallen in battle that day as well. Feldir the Old, who had opened the Elder Scroll and cast the great beast adrift in time. They had a score to settle, and wrongs to right in this battle. I had only to gather them to me and go to battle. I took a brief look around the hall. Who wouldn't? Not many from among the living could say that they have seen the afterlife that awaits them, though I don't think Sovngarde will be my own eventual destination. At least, I certainly hope not. Far too loud, too chaotic for my tastes. But I have a lifetime to think on that. Meeting with the 3 who would ride with me to battle, we created our plan. Our 4 voices joined as one to clear the skies and bring the great beast to battle, and then a fight that would determine the fate of Nirn. Either we would defeat and destroy the devastating dove, or consign all of creation to feed its hunger. We raced from the hall.